issues that has been there from an outsourcing perspective with Russia is the fact that still we do not find a very good adherence to process. And so the process discipline in Russia is not as strong as what you see in the rest of the Eastern European countries or in places like India and Philippines. Also, the infrastructure compared to some of the other Eastern European cities, the infrastructure is not as robust and consistent across versus some of the other Eastern cities. So I think we see that Russia will continue to lag, in our view, over the next few years versus some of the other Eastern European cities.
Okay, thanks. I have a few questions from the participants here. I think Avinash touched upon this issue that most of the Eastern European countries, they have got excellent data protection and privacy rights. But the question here is, are there any IPR issues in Eastern Europe? Would you want to possibly expand or compare it with the IPR regime with some other geography? Compare Eastern Europe with some other geographies.
Right. So I think that's the great boon of being part of the EU, is that has really been as you adopt the principles and the cover of the EU, you really are able to take care of those issues. So I think that's one of the advantages of the Eastern European countries is being part of the EU. They have an automatic compliance. There are few countries across the globe that have that status. For example, when you look at even South America, Chile is one country that has equivalence and an acceptance from EU. Now that kind of acceptance really is not there in many of the more popular offshore destinations, basically. So I don't see an issue with the IPR at all with Eastern European countries.
Okay.
In fact, Ed,
the next question, yeah.
In fact, Ed, because of the standardization of IPR in the European Union, they also have the capability to demand this from outsourcing locations outside of this particular block. So here in the Philippines, we're patterning our IP laws based on the standards of the European Union in order for us to service more requirements coming out of that particular region.
Right. Okay, thanks. I have another question coming up here. The question is, which is the best European market or best European, location for an SME IT outsourcing company? Please suggest, 1, 2, 3 options. I guess what it means is that for a smaller IT outsourcing company, which would be from a service provider point of view, which would be the best locations to look at from Europe?
Yes, I think it depends on the exact area of what that IT services company is. Again, from a smaller perspective, I think if you look at basic IT, I think some of the more common destinations like Poland, for example, and Czech Republic would be great. But if that particular mid-sized IT company is more in the telecom area, or is it more on the product services side of it, then you can even consider places like Russia as well.
Okay. The next question, I think it's a very, very pointed question. Maybe we could take it offline. Okay. Anyway, let me just reel that out. The person is asking the top 3 companies in pharma, financial services, and insurance that are utilizing Eastern Europe for IT services. Maybe we could work on that later. It is difficult to come up with very specific company names unless Avinash would want to volunteer with some examples.
Well, I think one of the companies in pharma that does a lot of work in the Eastern European countries is Novartis. So that has a lot of presence in Eastern European countries. What was the other area, Ed, that you talked about?
Financial services and insurance.
I think financial services is something that we have seen, a significant number of processes from a financial services perspective go to Eastern Europe. And I think one of the companies that has been a very, very early adopter of putting financial services into Eastern Europe, and we are talking about end-to-end process, has been Diageo, and that Diageo has been a significant proponent of finance and accounting services.
Okay. So good. So we have some names there. Okay. What is the breakout of IT services, IT infrastructure, and BPO? I mean, if one were to give a kind of a rough percentage split of the kind of work that is delivered from Eastern European locations, what would be IT services? How much would be infrastructure related, and how much would be BPO related?
So again, I think Eastern Europe actually follows a different trend than what you would see in other countries. For example, if you look at Philippines, you would say that less than 20% of it is IT services, and rest of it is pretty much BPO, KPO, the customer service stuff. If you look at India again. It would again be the opposite in India, where India would be, about 20% in terms of the BPO stuff, and rest of it is actually IT services. So it's the other way around versus Philippines. As far as Eastern Europe is concerned, as a group of countries, I think it's a very, very different profile than either Philippines or India. And I really at this point don't have an updated numbers in terms of the exact mix, but essentially IT services is probably about 40% of it. Then we have about BPO, that would be another 40%, and 20% is about infrastructure services.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. One very interesting question. What would you suggest as a strategy for a small country like Moldova, which does not have the scale but has a location that is proximate to the EU? How do you see the potential for partnering with players in India and the Philippines to kickstart the industry in a place like Moldova? Do you want me to repeat that quickly?
Yes, please.
Okay, what would you suggest as a strategy for a small country like Moldova, which does not have the scale but has a location that is proximate to the EU? And what is the potential for such a country partnering with major players in India or the Philippines to kickstart the industry? Maybe you could draw upon some countries what they did about 5 years back or so.
Yeah, so I think, for a smaller country, it is very, very essential that the only way they can differentiate themselves is by looking at a very, very niche capability, So at this point, I don't think so we have done a specific detailed analysis on the country in terms of what is the one single niche that stands out there. But I would actually say that that is what they should do, is to identify a niche, and any opportunity for partnership with Philippines or India would then depend on what that niche is. I would actually say that if the niche is more on the BPO, KPO, one of the things a small country like that can do is focus on analytics, because one of the things that is there with Moldova is, again, there is a significant amount of employability of the graduates from that country, and I think there is a significant demand at this point in terms of analytics. So from a BPO, KPO perspective, that would be a good area for them to focus on. For that country to go into finance and accounting will be absolutely the wrong thing to do. And from an IT perspective, again, for a country like that, there's absolutely no way that they can actually partner with even India and Philippines on the application support and maintenance kind of stuff. At this point, we do not know the exact capability, but product development, niche product development could be one. But at the same time, again, looking at some of the ERP stuff or looking at some of the SaaS-based IT stuff, or looking at doing certain things on business intelligence would be a good area on the IT side.
Right, right. So in summary, it means that any new country having aspirations to stake a claim to this particular opportunity, that country has to basically look at appropriate niches and then leverage it, rather than going on to high volume work, which is very much visible and staking a claim to it. I think the niche strategy would work well for such companies, for such countries.
Right.
Okay. Okay, I think that brings us to the close of this webinar. Thanks a lot, Avinash and Jonathan, for your presentations. It is a really rich treat of information, and we would be migrating to other regions, every 15 days, and it's going to be a kind of a whirlwind world tour for all of us. And as I said, we would be ending the series of webinars, the Global Show 2010, with the release and the launch of the Top 100 Outsourcing Cities report from Tholons. And just before the participants log off, just one request: please send in your feedback, please send in your comments and your ratings on how did you find this webinar. Once again, thanks a lot, everyone, for participating in this webinar, and have a great day, have a good night ahead. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.